Thank you guys for all coming tonight. I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed it. It really was an amazing journey. And as I was telling some people earlier, what you saw was probably 2% of what we shot and what the journey was. It took 10 years to make, not because it was necessarily 10 years of hard work. You know, it was partially 10 years of making a lot of mistakes. You know, we had an idea for this. And the initial idea, you know, I was indirectly inspired by a documentary called Trekkies, which came out, I think, in 2000, 2001. And anyone who saw that, it really sort of ridiculed the fans. It took the extreme sides of fandom and said, look at all these whack jobs. And I was really, really kind of pissed off by that, because my experience to that point with people who admired Star Trek had been extremely positive. And it was really the rare case that you got someone that was a little, you know, out in left field. But normally they were people from all walks of life. And I really wanted to do a documentary showing the diversity of fandom, how Star Trek really pierced through all sorts of social and economic boundaries, how it inspired people from all around the world to believe in themselves. And I met up with a gentleman by the name of Scott Calthorpe, and he really brought in the father-son angle. And I was actually against that initially, because I didn't see it. I didn't see what the son had to do with it. I got the Star Trek, I got the fans, but you know, I fought that for a couple of years. But we would continue to shoot interviews, probably every 3 or 4 months at a different convention. So we'd get a celebrity or a fan, and we'd shoot the interviews. And there was no script, but we knew the direction. And we'd shoot and we'd shoot and we'd shoot, and shot for almost, I'd say, 6 years, because we'd always come up with a new idea. We'd say, hey, okay, listen, one thing we need to do to sell this is we need to get some celebrities. Let's get some celebrities. How do you get celebrities? So IMDb, then you can buy something called IMDb Pro, and there's, you know, Hollywood 411 directory. And we just sort of reach out to fans with these random letters. Lucas was one of them. And actually some of them would reply. And then you'd get their agent, and that was you just ignore those. And then another time we'd say, you know, we really want to show the diversity of fandom. I was always impressed that the stereotypes. I wanted to get the different stereotypes. I wanted to get the geek, the football star, the cheerleader, the whatever. And so we started reaching out to those individuals. And you didn't see it in here, but we got, there's a Kansas Chief, I forgot his name, football player that we tried to interview, but he's a Star Trek fan. You know, we've got 2 Playboy bunnies who told a story. It was a great interview story, how they would race home from the shoot to, you know, one wanted to watch one show and one watch Star Trek. And, you know, whoever got home first would get to watch it. And so one would always race the other one home. So we got so many fantastic interviews, and it was such, you know, an amazing journey. But the 10 years was making a lot of mistakes. And then we got into editing. And that's when it kind of spiraled out of control to some degree. I wanted to make sure we didn't do a Gene Roddenberry biography, because that had been done. And if you guys are interested, A&E did a great one 10 plus years ago. I didn't want to do just a fluff piece on Gene Roddenberry. Because of that, the reason that I sit up there, you know, so many people had put him on a pedestal that I didn't want to reconvey that message necessarily. The main thing that I wanted to do was humanize him. That was the most important thing to me. And that wasn't necessarily to trash him. That wasn't necessarily just to show the negativity of Gene Roddenberry, but that was a true journey for me to find these stories, to find the people who had something bad to say about him or had an issue with him. And some of them gave me interviews. A lot of them didn't. Those of you who are admirers have heard about the famous Harlan Ellison stories. Tried to get him, and he didn't want to do it. But I really wasn't out there to defend my father. I really wanted to get some perspective on it. And only through finding these stories and humanizing him was I able to bring him down, not just to a level where I could connect with him, but my hope was that audience members, people out there, fans who saw this documentary, who revered him, would see him as a human. And it sounds kind of stupid for me to say he was human. Of course you know he's human. But the ones who revered him, to say, wow, you know, he's just kind of as screwed up as I am. But he still did this great TV series. He still had this great vision of the future. He still inspired people. Hey, maybe I can too. As we started editing the documentary, it would go down the fluff direction. It would go down the biography direction. And then one of the directions that I brought it down, I would say mistakenly, but not for me, was, I always call it this, and it sounds so demeaning, but it was the "Did My Daddy Love Me" story. And we touched on that a little bit, but there was a lot more with Nick Sagan, Carl Sagan's son, that kind of, we talked about the father-son experience. The Will Wheaton interview was amazing. I'll tell you a very special part of that was he told me a story. Should I give you background first? Well, no, he told me a story. If you've seen The Next Generation, there was an episode where Will Wheaton, Wesley Crusher, is promoted to ensign on the bridge of the Enterprise. During that day, my father actually went down to set and stopped production right as he was going to be promoted, right as they were going to shoot that scene. And my father presented Will Wheaton with his ensign bars from World War II. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Not because I wanted those bars. It was just, I had no idea that my father had relationships that personal with people on Star Trek. So that started me on this year-long sort of exploration as to, my father having Star Trek as another family. My father, really having all these extra characters as people he created in his own image of his family. So that cut was very personal to me. But when we played it for other people, it was to be honest, and I'll just say it. Who cares about Rod? And I don't mean that in a bad way. People are out to see Trek Nation, the man behind the myth. And I'm not offended by that at all. It was an amazing cut. I still have it. It means a tremendous amount to me. But it made sense. We finally found a cut that we liked. We thought it was probably 85% there. We took it to CBS. We took it to Paramount. We took it to Showtime. They all rejected it. Discovery Channel said, we see what you're doing here, and we'd like to help. And that was, thank God, because it had been somewhat of a nightmare and roller coaster until that point. And we spent about 2 weeks with their team, and we talked about every aspect of it, and we really got to know their editing team, and they ended up cutting in about 9 months what you just saw. And I think they did a fantastic job. So that's my story of my journey to do this, sort of all summed up really, hopefully neatly. But can I open this up to Q&A?
Are you a Trekkie now?
Absolutely. I'm more, as I say, I'm more of a fan of the philosophy. Although right now I'm doing a podcast called Mission Log. We just started about 2 months ago. And what we're doing, starting with the cage and then going chronologically in air order of each episode, we're analyzing each episode and finding out the morals, the subtext, the metaphors. We're doing it with some wit and humor. So it's a lot of fun. But someone, right after we started it, someone said, "Do you realize it's going to take you 13 and a half years?" So I'm going to be watching all the shows. So yeah, I'm becoming a Trekkie all over again.
Like kind of going to those first conventions and meeting all these people who were so influenced by Star Trek?
Well, as I said, when I was a real little kid, it was just a playground for me. It was like perpetual Halloween for the weekend. As I got older, it was phases, seeing, why would people dress up like that? Why would people dress up like that? And just sort of start to understand that they really just admire and appreciate the vision. Trekkies, the documentary, showed a fan who went to, they were, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my words. Who sits in a court? Jury. They were a jury member, and they insisted on coming in uniform. And the court allowed it, but, yeah, exactly. You kind of laugh at that, and you kind of go, nut job, and I've never met the person, but I have some admiration for their passion of Star Trek in the future. Now, again, I don't know what their mental state is on that, but one would hope is they just hopefully believe one day that future will exist.
Can you say anything about what you're
Oh, absolutely. The foundation is a fairly young organization. Um, basically, you heard about it in the beginning, but I was kind of. I hear fans my entire life say, "God, won't that future be great?" You know, too bad I won't be here. You know, it would be nice to live in a future like that. And the impetus is like, let's stop waiting and let's make it happen. And I've had a lot of people around me who have inspired me, including my father. But there's tremendous innovators out there today. There's people who are, I'm standing in a room full of them. But there's people out there today who want that future to happen with or without Star Trek. And I want to use the family brand, I want to use the family name to inspire people to take action now to make that future a reality. So what we're doing with the foundation is we're looking to solve long-term problems, grand challenges, and no Band-Aid solutions. So one of the first contributions we made was to the Gladstone Institute in San Francisco. They actually formed the, I always get this wrong, Rodenberry Center for Stem Cell Research and Biology, or Biology and Research. And what inspired us to make that contribution was we did a lot of due diligence, probably 9 months or so. And we took a number of tours. And one of the things that really got us is when we were up there, we looked through a microscope and we saw a sheet of beating heart cells. Well, we had learned the sheet of beating heart cells came from an adult male skin cell. And I'm not a scientist, but I can only regurgitate what I've been told. What they can do now, and some of you may know this, or all of you may, embryonic stem cells are a thing of the past. They still use them, but what's really cool is they've been able to make pluripotent stem cells, which means they can take any cell from your body, they can reverse engineer it into a stem cell, and then program that stem cell to become any other cell in your body, heart, liver, lung, you name it. So when we looked at this microscope, through this microscope of beating heart cells, that's the implications of that were amazing. We're far away from growing organs, but that is a reality. That is no longer what you see on the screen. And one other thing they've been able to do is that they've been able to take it another step, is they've been able to inject, I'm again not being a scientist, their special sauce. Sorry. Yeah, I'll send you the paper. You can read the paper, huh? Into damaged heart cells and have the damaged heart cells regenerate themselves. Not 100%, but they've had success in doing that. So, down the road, you name it, Alzheimer's, heart disease, whatever the case is, I don't even want to say in theory, because it's getting there, just not tomorrow. They will be able to regenerate damaged organs and parts of the body. So that's what I'm inspired by. Those are the type of organizations that the Rodenberry Foundation is out there to support. And of course, another one that we're following very closely and hopefully going to do something with is the X Prize, which I imagine most of you have heard of. We're huge fans of them. Sure. Yeah, my answer's not that interesting. I watched all the original. I grew up with Next Gen. I love the original, but I'm a product of the Next Gen. I love Next Generation. Deep Space Nine, I've seen parts of. Voyager, I saw a bit of. I watched the first season of Enterprise, and got bored. So I have not. I can't answer that. I've heard the same thing. And I've gotten bored probably in the same ways, and I just love the Next Gen. So I think I agree, but I can't be that definitive. I love the movie. I always try to give credit where credit's due. There's a lot of issues people had with Rick Berman. He had large shoes to fill, and so I give him credit for what he did and didn't do with Star Trek. It could have been a whole lot worse. J.J. Abrams, I think, did a fantastic job. I think casting was amazing. The only thing that I don't want to even fault him, but all the movies are this way. It didn't have a lot of subtext and metaphors. It didn't have a message necessarily. It was excellent sci-fi and it was excellent Star Trek. But it didn't make you think in any way. Not really. So, and I was kind of pissed at the end when I loved, first of all, I loved when Kirk said, Chris Pine said to Nero's, Nemo. Yeah, it's a weird slip. Said, can we offer you assistance as his ship was being sucked into the black hole? And of course he said no. And then Spock said something, like blow them to hell, which wasn't very Star Trek, but I'll give it up to it being a young Spock. So, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Yes, exactly. I don't know if it'd been 7 years yet. I love the fact that there's a lot of inside jokes that you guys awesome. I'm pretty sure, it's always hard for me to speak for my father. I can only, as you just said, I can only speak what I think he would say and do. But I'm pretty damn sure he would be proud of it. He loved people, young people, as he would say, going out and being creative and continuing with their vision and taking his vision and spinning it in their own directions. I know he would love that and encourage that. I think it's really just the studios and the politics that get in the way a lot. Although the good news is there is a lot of good fan fiction out there in terms of filmed episodes. New Voyages, I don't know if you've seen it. There's a few of them out there that they've spent a lot of time and money to build sets of the original Enterprise that look pretty damn good and put on costumes. And they've got people, I actually worked on one just for a day, just to, meet the people. And everyone was passionate. Everyone was really excited to be a part of it. The acting, needs a little work. But they were able to do pretty high-end episodes for fan fiction. And I'm really impressed with technology. I mean, what they're able to do today with effects. They were able to get, not only are they able to do great effects, but they're able to get great writers. T.C. Fontana wrote an episode of fan fiction or fan film. And then they got Walter Koenig to be in an episode. And I think George Takei was in an episode. So I'm a fan. I know the people who've worked on Star Trek are a fan of fan fiction. How many times? Fan fiction? Yeah. So yes, maybe I just drew out that question longer than I should have. Yes, I'm a huge fan of it. Sorry, I hope that answered it.
I'm curious, why wasn't Leonard Nimoy or Will Shatner on it?
No. Shatner never really responded, and that's fine. Yeah, and Nimoy was fairly kind about it. When I asked him about it, he had just done Trekkies, and he had felt slighted by Trekkies. So he didn't want to be a part of another documentary. And people have said, "Oh, you're Gene's son. Wouldn't he do that for you?" No, I wasn't that close to that cast. Over the years, I've gotten closer to Nichelle, George, and Walter. Shatner's in his own world, and yeah, and Nimoy's just getting up there. But that's the reason why. Sure. I think the foundation is where Heidi, my wife, and I, that's where our heart is right now, just because I think it feels good to try to make a difference and to work towards that future. Other projects, entertainment-based, there's one that we're pretty proud of right now that's called White Room and is the first dramatic content done with a 360-degree camera. So I forgot the name of the company, but we found a company and we shot a 15-minute short sci-fi film. And it was shot traditionally as well as with the three-dimensional camera. And the idea is this camera in the center of a table in a room, and you've got 6 actors all around it, 6 or 8. Oh, damn, I forgot. Well, sci-fi ensues. Isn't that a great pitch? Sci-fi ensues. The idea is to watch it in a domed theater or a planetarium, and we've done some tests, and it's pretty cool because you're literally watching people all around you. Now, there might be some lawsuits from whiplash and that sort of thing, but that's one of the cool aspects. The other real cool one is we're almost done developing an app for on your iPad or Android or whatever device it is these days. You can hold it, and the character in front of you will be talking, and then it'll get an indicator that someone else is talking, and you'll be able to follow the actors. And while one's talking, you can look over here, or you can look around the room. So it gives you, the user, the viewer, sort of control. You can be the director and see what's going on. So that's the current one. Yeah, and we've got a couple comic books. Days Missing, Worth. Good stuff. Check it out.
Could you tell a Hampshire story?
Wow, a Hampshire story. Something entertaining, huh? What's that? Roberta? Oh, I don't remember. It's been a long time. I had a... I know I was in a Dakin E we discovered today. I think 107 was my first room, and then I was at the end of the room in the double for a while. I just remember terrorizing people on my bike. I know that I had access to the top of the science, what's the science building called? Cole. They gave me access to the roof up there, and I brought my telescope up there. I had an 8-inch Celestron, and I'd go up there, and I'd set up a tent, and I'd actually sort of camp out on the top of Cole and take pictures at night or look through the telescope. Let me answer some other questions. I'll think about that I'll give you something juicy if I can. I loved Galaxy Quest. That was perfect. They did a great job with that. They really did. They really did. Yes, sir.
I'm curious about your thoughts on your mother's sense of this film and what you're doing, and you got a little of that with your interview with her.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. There's a lot of things that I wanted to include in this documentary, and there's a lot of things that I didn't include in this documentary. The truth and the excuse is it's hard to fit my father's 70 years of life, 45 years of Star Trek, and my relationship with him into 90 minutes. We shot a lot of stuff with my mother and my relationship with her and her relationship with my father. She passed away in 2008. So she never saw the final product. But in terms of getting her into the documentary and telling her story or including her in the story, I've gotten a little bit of criticism, which I'm fine with, about why I didn't include more of that. And it was literally because she needs her own documentary to go into it a little and get her point of view on the kinds of things I said in there. I mean, you can't just show what I showed, go to my mother, get her response, and then move on to something else. That's a big topic. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have too much of that in there.
So when is that one coming out?
I kind of, for now, I have vowed to never do another documentary again. But I can tell you what not to do. And I guess I just found even though I've seen this so many times, I have my latest piece of advice is anytime someone tells you to turn off the camera, don't. Figure out, paint the red light black, cover it, never turn off. Put it down, say, okay, just keep going.
You made some decisions there that I'm not sure if you're being fair to yourself.
I don't have an argument. I know that I can only portray a piece of myself then. I know that then, when I was here at college, my father had just passed away, and I still really didn't care too much about Star Trek. And I was still, I was a very, I hate to repeat everything, but I was a rebellious teenager. So, I mean, I maybe it wasn't a well-rounded view of myself, but I mean, the documentary wasn't about me. Even though I'm in it a tremendous amount, it was hopefully me as the vehicle, the storyteller of my father. So I think I appreciate what you're saying, unless you're saying I was a whole lot worse. For me, Star Trek and Roddenberry have always been about inspiration, to inspire people to believe in themselves, to believe that they can go beyond the perceived boundaries that they have. And so with the foundation, the kinds of organizations that we want to partner up with are the ones that are doing that, that don't just have cool technology, but the ones that are really, these are such buzzwords, but really are cutting edge and making people go like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that. Oh my God, I want to do that. So forgive me if I'm not answering that, but this is what I'm getting from what you're saying. Yes, I want to continue to inspire. I want to continue to inspire through action, through recognizing organizations and getting them into the limelight and saying, hey, Star Trek fans, look at what's possible today. Because we've met people that said, because of this TV show, I was inspired to do this. That's the most powerful thing. Inspiration is by far the most powerful thing. Yes, we want to do that with the foundation, not just blindly contribute to organizations. We want to inspire by doing that. If that answers it a little bit.
What is the thing from Star Trek, the reality from Star Trek that you would most like to see actualized?
We're seeing it. It's happening. It's the replicator. You guys have got one, technically. Or, I don't know if technically is the term, but you have a 3D printer. It's in the car. It's on the dash. It's on the dash. They made a great, they 3D printed a Spocktopus for me today, which is an octopus with pointy ears, and it's pretty cool. I love the idea of the replicator. When we can get to the point where we can rearrange atoms and control them, it's a discussion that I'm sure people have already had, but I love thinking about the idea of when you can create anything in a replicator. You can start creating money, you can start creating gold, you can start creating Ferraris, you can start creating anything you want. But once you start creating all those things, and everyone has the ability to do that, these things lose value, and you start thinking, what has value then? And it becomes idea, it becomes thought, it becomes personality. And that's when we'll start taking a greater interest in those things. That's when we'll start leaving the Ferraris and the gold behind, because they don't have any value anymore. And so I look forward to the day that we have replicators, because people say, well, then what about, gardening? What about all the tasks that you don't want to do? There are people who love working in the field, who love doing farming. There are people who love thinking of new ways to, wash windows on a building. I mean, there are people who will do things out of passion. We all have interests. We all want to try things, and it'll give us the freedom to do those things. And if not, we'll create robots to do them for us.
Is James T. Kirk like your dad in any way, or is there any kind of similarity
Absolutely.
between them?
All his characters have elements of him in them, for sure. And what's really interesting is, when you compare the original series and Next Generation, and how different, especially the captains are, and some of the writers in Next Generation, like it was said, they really wanted it to be like the original series, and the reason why it wasn't is because, my father, it had been 25 years, and my father had changed as a person. My father had matured and gained wisdom as a person. Younger during the original series, he might throw a fist first, not necessarily my father, but he was, more of that personality. As he got older, diplomacy, avoiding the fight, trying to see both sides became more of a priority. And you see that in Picard. So they were definitely elements of him, by all means. By all means. I consider myself an optimistic pessimist, because I just go back and forth. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I do have a pretty positive view of the future, and despite everything that's going on right now, again, what's really cool is when you meet the people who are coming up with solutions. I think I'm standing in a room full of them, and I think there's many all over the world. And with the I guess pervasiveness of technology, the way that it's spreading so fast, it's giving more people the opportunity to think differently and share their ideas and get data and get information I think there's enough people out there, there's more and more every day that want to see solutions to these problems. So I think in the end, it's those people, it's us who are going to win. We're going to be able to find these solutions. We're going to be able to change these minds, and we're going to be able to inspire people to do things differently. So I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of these people. No, and I'm definitely a believer in life on other planets. I can't tell you for sure that I think that every incident with an UFO is real. I want to believe majority of them are. Of course, I would also take the stance that when they look down here at us, they kind of pop their head and they go, "Oh, not ready." Okay. So that would be my belief. So I think they're out there, and I'm sure if I were one of them, I'd kind of look at us and say, a little bit more time in the oven. But I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. After 18 years, coming back here has been a real privilege and kind of mind-blowing to see the campus again and to talk to, I guess, people who were my inspiration. So thank you, guys. And I can't believe, I don't ever remember reading that. That was like the best evaluation I ever got. It's amazing. And I haven't done infrared since then, but I guess I should take it up. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.